Karen Whitmore stood in her kitchen window at 6:47 am, coffee mug trembling in her manicured hands, watching her new neighbor Marcus install a sprinkler system on what she was absolutely certain was her property. The audacity, the sheer, unbridled audacity of this man to steal her precious 15 feet of street Augustine grass while she slept. "Excuse me," she shrieked, bursting through her back door in fuzzy pink slippers and a bathrobe that had seen better decades. "What do you think you will be doing?" Marcus looked up from his shovel, genuinely confused. "Installing sprinklers on my lawn?" "Your lawn?" Karen's voice cracked like a whip. "That's my yard. I've been taking care of that grass for 12 years. She jabbed her finger toward the disputed territory, her wedding ring catching the morning sun like a weapon. "Ma'am, I have the property survey right here. I don't care what some piece of paper says. I know where my property line is." Karen's face was already approaching her signature shade of crimson. "I'm calling the police." Marcus blinked slowly, still holding his shovel. "For installing sprinklers on my own property. For THEFT. Karen spun on her heel, slippers slapping against the concrete. "Grand theft of real estate." 23 minutes later, Officer Rodriguez arrived to find Karen pacing her driveway like a caged tiger, clutching a measuring tape and what appeared to be hand-drawn property maps, covered in angry red ink. "Ma'am, I understand you called about a property dispute." "It's not a dispute, it's theft. That man," she pointed dramatically at Marcus, who was now sitting on his porch with bemused resignation, "has stolen 15 feet of my yard." 15 feet. Do you know how much property is worth these days? Officer Rodriguez glanced at the perfectly ordinary suburban yards. "Have you checked your property survey?" Karen's eye twitched. "The survey is wrong. I've lived here longer. I know every blade of grass on that lawn. I fertilized it, I watered it, I loved it." Her voice broke with genuine emotion. "Ma'am, feelings don't determine property lines." "Then what good are feelings?" Karen demanded, throwing her hands up. "What good is caring? What good is being a responsible homeowner if some stranger can just waltz in and steal your life's work?" Marcus cleared his throat. "I could show you both the official survey." "Lies." Karen screamed. "Survey lies. Government conspiracy. HOA corruption." Officer Rodriguez sighed deeply, recognizing the look of a woman who had crossed a line she couldn't uncross. This was going to be a very long morning, and somehow, he suspected, an even longer summer. The war for 15 feet of grass had officially begun. By 9 am, Karen had assembled what she called her evidence portfolio, 17 manila folders containing everything from satellite photos, printed from Google Earth, to receipts for grass seed dating back to 2011. She burst through the doors of Meadowbrook HOA's administrative office like a woman possessed. "Margaret," she announced to the receptionist, "emergency board meeting. Now." Margaret Chen looked up from her computer with practiced patience. "Good morning, Karen. The next board meeting isn't until." "This can't wait." Karen slammed her folders onto the counter. "Property theft is happening in broad daylight. If we don't act now, what's next? People moving entire houses, stealing swimming pools?" "Karen, slow down. What exactly?" "My new neighbor Marcus is claiming ownership of my yard. 15 feet of prime street Augustine grass that I've personally maintained for over a decade." Karen began spreading photos across Margaret's desk like a detective presenting evidence. "Look at this. See how green and lush. That's my handiwork." Margaret squinted at the photos. "These all look like the same grass to me." "Exactly, because it's all my grass." Karen's logic was bulletproof in her mind. "Margaret, I need you to call an emergency session. This is bigger than just my property. This is about the very foundation of homeownership. I'll need to see the actual property survey." "The survey is compromised." Karen's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "Think about it. New resident moves in, suddenly has a survey that gives him extra land. Who benefits from property redistribution? The government. The deep state. Big landscaping." Margaret blinked. "Big landscaping?" "Wake up, Margaret. They want us fighting over property lines while they control the narrative. Karen was fully animated now, gesturing wildly. But I won't be silenced. I'm calling Tom Harrison right now. Tom Harrison, HR president and retired insurance adjuster, answered his phone to find Karen in full crisis mode. Tom, thank God. We have a situation. Code red. Property line emergency. Karen, it's 9 in the morning on a Tuesday. Crime doesn't sleep, Tom. My neighbor is stealing my land. I need an emergency injunction, a restraining order, and a full forensic survey. Have you actually looked at your property deed? Deeds can be forged. Karen was spiraling now. Tom, I'm coming over. We need to discuss this face to face. The phones might be tapped. She hung up before he could respond. Tom Harrison sat in his kitchen, staring at his phone, wondering how a Tuesday morning had suddenly become an episode of a reality show he never auditioned for. His wife looked over from her crossword puzzle. Let me guess, Karen. She thinks her neighbor is stealing her yard. Is he? Probably not. But that won't stop her from turning this into World War III. Tom was more right than he realized. Karen was already in her car, evidence portfolio in the passenger seat, plotting her next move with the strategic intensity of a general planning a siege. By 7 p.m., Karen's living room looked like a war room. She had arranged folding chairs in military precision, set up a flip chart with hand-drawn property maps, and prepared what she called evidence snacks, crackers arranged to represent property boundaries. 8 neighbors had shown up, mostly out of curiosity and the promise of wine. Thank you all for coming, Karen began, standing beside her flip chart like a general addressing troops. We're here because our community is under attack. Mrs. Patterson from 2 houses down raised her hand. Karen, dear, didn't you check your property deed? Betty, that's exactly what they want us to think. Karen tapped her chart emphatically. That we should just blindly trust paperwork instead of our own eyes and hearts. Who is they? Asked Jim Morrison from across the street. The property redistribution complex. Real estate agents, surveyors, city planners, they're all in on it. Karen was hitting her stride now. Think about it. Who benefits when property lines mysteriously shift? Follow the money. Her sister Linda, who had arrived an hour earlier with a bottle of wine and growing concern, watched Karen's presentation with mounting alarm. During the intermission for cheese and crackers, she pulled Karen aside. Honey, I brought something. Linda reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. Remember when Mom and Dad bought this house? I found the original property documents in their safety deposit box. Karen's confidence flickered for just a moment. Linda, whatever those papers say. Just look. Linda opened the envelope and spread out the original 1987 property survey. Karen, look at the measurements. Karen studied the faded document, her finger tracing the property lines. Her face went through several expressions: confusion, realization, then something approaching horror. This can't be right. Karen, according to the original survey, Marcus isn't on your property. You've been maintaining his. The room seemed to tilt. Karen stared at the survey, then at Linda, then back at the survey. But I fertilized that grass. I watered it. I loved it. I know, honey. But loving something doesn't make it yours. Karen sank into her kitchen chair, the weight of 12 years of misplaced territorial pride crashing down on her. Through the window, she could see Marcus's sprinkler system gently watering what was definitely his grass. Oh my God, she whispered. I called the police. I threatened to sue him. I organized a neighborhood uprising. She looked up at Linda with growing panic. I accused him of being part of a property redistribution conspiracy. What are you going to do? Karen looked out at her neighbors, still in her living room, still waiting for their general to return with a battle plan. Then she looked at Marcus's house, where lights were on, and she could see him reeling peacefully on his couch, probably wondering why his neighbor had declared war over sprinklers. I have no idea, she admitted, but I think I need to start with an apology. Linda nodded. Probably several apologies. Several dozen apologies. Karen took a deep breath. Linda, how do you apologize for being completely catastrophically wrong about something you were absolutely certain about? Very carefully, Linda said, and probably with baked goods. As Karen contemplated the ruins of her certainty, she realized this might be the first time in years she genuinely had no idea what to do next. The feeling was terrifying, and somehow a little liberating. But first, she had to face her neighbors and explain that their property revolution was based on a fundamental misunderstanding of property ownership. This was going to be a very long night. Karen's next stop was the law office of Bradley and Associates, where she had once successfully sued a dry cleaner for allegedly shrinking her blazer. The receptionist's face fell the moment Karen walked through the door. "I need to speak with Mr. Bradley immediately," Karen announced. "This is a matter of property theft, boundary disputes, and possibly racketeering." Racketeering? The receptionist's eyebrows shot up. Large-scale property redistribution scheme. Very hush-hush. Very dangerous. Karen lowered her voice dramatically. Lives could be at stake. 20 minutes later, she sat across from Frank Bradley, a patient man who had learned to budget extra time for Karen's visits. "So let me understand," Frank said, reviewing her folders. "Your neighbor installed sprinklers on what you believe is your property." "What I know is my property," Karen corrected. "Frank, I need you to file for an immediate restraining order. I want him off my land. I want his sprinklers removed. And I want damages for emotional distress." "Karen, have you seen the official property survey?" Her eye twitched again. "Why does everyone keep asking about the survey? I'm telling you, I know where my property ends. I've walked that line thousands of times." Feelings aren't legally binding. Then make them binding. Karen slammed her palm on his desk. "That's why I pay you. To make the law work for justice." Frank sighed, recognizing the look of a client who had already made up her mind about reality. "Karen, I'll need to see both property surveys before I can." "Fine. But while you're reading paperwork, that man is out there destroying my life's work." Karen stood up abruptly. "I'm taking matters into my own hands." "Karen, please don't do anything." But she was already gone, leaving behind only the faint scent of determination and desperation. Back at home, Karen stood in her kitchen, staring out at Marcus, who was now planting rose bushes along what any reasonable person would recognize as his property line. But Karen wasn't feeling particularly reasonable. She opened her laptop and began typing furiously. "Attention MEADOBROOK raise IDNTs. Property theft in progress on Maple Street. If we don't stand together against boundary violations, who knows where it will end? Today, it's 15 feet of grass. Tomorrow, it could be your driveway, your garden, your entire backyard. Join me in protecting our community's values. Emergency neighborhood meeting tonight, 7 p.m., my living room. Light refreshments provided. BYOB. Bring your own boundaries." She hit send on the neighborhood email list, then called her sister Linda. "Linda, I need you to bring your camera and your attitude. We're going to war." "What did you do now, Karen?" "I didn't do anything. That's the problem. I've been too passive, too trusting. But that ends today." "Karen." "Linda, are you with me or against me?" Linda sighed. "I'll be there in an hour." As Karen hung up, she watched Marcus watering his new rose bushes with her water, or so she assumed, and felt something inside her crystallize into pure determination. This wasn't just about grass anymore. This was about justice, principle, and the American way. She had no idea she was about to discover something that would change everything.